Imagine it's 1985. It's Saturday morning, you got a big bowl of Mr. T breakfast cereal, your mom's in the kitchen popping Valiums like they're Reese's Pieces, and while you're watching your two favorite cartoons in the whole world, you think to yourself, wow, I wish the G.I. Joes and the Transformers could meet. I wish my mom looked like Baroness. Well, son, the 40-year-old men at Hasbro thought the same thing too, delivering us Transformers collaborative G.I. Joe mashup, His Tank Megatron, and Baroness. While I would love to tell you that this is the premier collaboration, born of a union of great minds from two of Hasbro's best teams coming together in an orgy of plastic bliss, in reality, it's an incongruent mess of ideas that should work together, but have been horribly mishandled. Let me put it this way. There's a reason this was revealed on a G.I. Joe stream, not a Transformers one. Megatron's His Tank mode is a big, sleek, bullet-shaped war machine that has a rotating turret on top, a huge set of treads on either side, and a large, foggy windscreen that looks like it's made out of a Sterilite bin. You know, the type of bin your mom used to put your toys in when you were a kid. You know, the type of bin she still puts her toys in. The tank is almost entirely black aside from a few insignias and random lettering that means nothing to me. Its appearance is pretty plain overall. There's a few riveted panels and this metal texture on the rear, but the majority of the details are sculpted into the treads and within the cockpit itself. It legitimately looks like it was molded off of the original 80s toy, which is probably really cool for the few G.I. Joe fans in the audience, and as such, the included Baroness figure is also a recreation of the original toy. Now, Baroness herself is a major baddie through and through, and she probably hates brown people like me, so that's even hotter. But she's definitely showing her age here. Her arms are pretty well articulated, but the position of her hands relative to her elbows makes holding her gun look really unnatural. Her head can't turn, and every other joint is very stiff with limited motion, though thanks to the O-ring design, meaning that she has a small rubber ring connecting her torso to her legs, she has an articulated waist. Its elasticity makes it really fun to play with, whether that's performing cool kung fu chops or sucking dick like nobody's business. I guess I shouldn't be too hard on a 40-year-old toy. She has some pretty nice boobies after all, but not nice enough! Of course, she's here to interact with the various gimmicks of the vehicle mode. The turret moves, Baroness can fit snugly in there. The cockpit opens, Baroness can fit snugly in there. She can peg onto the back, I can fit snugly into her cockpit. It's all here. And shockingly as well, they've actually taken the time to make the guns compatible with Transformers effect parts too, which even the Transformers team forgets to do sometimes. In Transformers terms, this set is basically a giant Human Alliance figure. You guys remember Human Alliance? That short-lived subline of Voyager-class Transformers that included human minifigures? Do you guys need a fun-size Michaela Baines? Yeah, I got something fun size for her too. But while Human Alliance figures included fun gimmicks for the human characters to interact with, this was counterbalanced by more articulated, higher fidelity versions of the robots. His Tank Megatron takes that delicate balance and rolls it into oncoming traffic. This is a very faithful recreation of an 80s His Tank, I assume. I don't have one, and really my only interaction with this franchise before this was the Fensler film PSAs.
I'm just kidding with you.
These vehicle features aren't especially elaborate, but they do end up having dramatic consequences on the robot mode. The first thing you'll notice about Megatron's robot mode is that he's fucking enormous. Seemingly, he should be scaled to match Baroness, but he's only about 2.5 Baronesses tall. And if she were the size of an average woman, height-wise of course, Megatron would still be a bit shy of his official height of 6 meters tall. The details of this figure are very crisp, especially this phenomenal head sculpt and this thick, blocky chest.
Look at me.
But something that kind of bugs me is how he is very clearly modeled after his appearance in the cartoon, while Baroness's Daria-looking ass is the design of the toy. The aesthetics are mismatched, like either Baroness should look like cartoon Baroness, or what I think would be way cooler, Megatron should be modeled after his original toy. This sort of reference would probably only be appreciated by a few diehard fans, and they probably just made Megatron in his most iconic look to have a more general appeal. And that's just all the looks. Once you start playing with the figure, the limitations start to become pretty obvious. For one thing, Megatron's articulation is very simple. Legitimately, he only has roughly the same level of articulation as Baroness herself. No waist, no ankles, no wrists. This is a $90 figure, by the way, and if he can't maintain the same level of articulation that's expected of a mainline figure, that's pretty sad. But it's not just in the articulation where he bucks the standards of this toy line. Megatron has some of the worst vehicle kibble management that I think we've seen in a long time. He has a number of vehicle parts dangling off of his shoulders, hips, and legs. It's a little unrefined. I sort of like the look of these massive shoulders and the missiles on his hips though. I wish they could have infused his G1 design with the His Tank a bit more, but as I said, they probably wanted to keep him looking as recognizable as possible. The biggest offender here is this giant slab of the vehicle mode that juts out of his back. It's literally the entire top portion of the tank, and it can't condense at all. The windscreen can't fold away for shit, and you can't remove it because it uses its physics to lock Megatron's shoulders in place. It's all because the bottom of the turret is just poking through the top of the tank. And TF Wiki is all, wow, isn't it cool that you could transform him without removing Baroness? No! I'm pretty convinced that this was an intentional choice, to have Baroness able to ride behind Megatron's head and woman the turret, so maybe you can excuse the big ass lump of kibble hanging off of his back as a feature.
It's a feature.
However, what I can't excuse is this cavernous hole in his body that it leaves behind. Much like your local diaper first relationship with their father, Megatron is a hollow, empty mess. Again, if you want to say this is a necessity for the design, that's fine, but that's no excuse for the rest of the limbs and other parts of the figure. I just don't understand where all the money went. This feels like such a mismanagement of effort and resources. I think the idea is that this is what the toy would have been if it was released in that era, but the execution is so heavily shifted in favor of the G.I. Joe side. This is the Transformer made for G.I. Joe fans, but I'm looking at this as a Transformers toy from the perspective of a Transformers fan, and it simply doesn't measure up to what I expect at this size, and especially at this price. Listen, Siege Jetfire is getting reissued right now. He's like the best Transformer ever, just buy him. I'm rebranding this video into a Siege Jetfire review. Hasbro doesn't have a great track record with tanks this year, and this video will tell you all about how they screwed up yet another tank Transformer. But anyway, that's just my opinions. Please leave yours in the comments below. Bye bye.
Who wants a body massage?